They called him the Ghost at the county shelter. Not because he was white, because he moved like he wasn't really there. He was a German Shepherd mix, maybe 4 years old, gray around the muzzle, a long scar across his left ear. He'd been found chained to a fence post on an abandoned property outside of Waco, Texas. No water, no shade, just a 3-foot chain and a pile of bones he'd been gnawing on. When animal control arrived, he didn't growl, he didn't whimper, he just stood there, like he'd been waiting, but stopped expecting anyone to come. They brought him in on a Tuesday, gave him the name Soldier, cleaned his wounds, gave him food. He ate like it might be his last meal, because for a long time, it always had been. The first week, he wouldn't look at anyone. Staff would walk by his kennel, and he'd press himself into the back corner, head down, eyes forward, completely still. One of the volunteers, a woman named Grace, noticed something. Every morning, when she came in at 6 a.m., Soldier was already awake, already sitting, already watching the door, like he was keeping guard over something that wasn't there anymore. Grace started sitting outside his kennel. She didn't reach in, she didn't talk to him, she just sat there, with her coffee, reading a book, day after day, for 3 straight weeks. On day 22, Soldier moved. He walked from the back corner to the front of the kennel, lay down, and rested his chin 2 inches from her hand. Grace didn't move. She just whispered, "I see you." That was the first time anyone at the shelter saw his tail move. The adoption coordinator said Soldier was unadoptable, too old, too shut down, too much work. They gave him 60 days. After that, the list. Grace went home that night and couldn't sleep. She had 2 kids, a small house, a husband who was already working double shifts. She didn't need another mouth to feed. She knew that. But she kept seeing those eyes, brown and still, like 2 windows into a room that had been empty for years. The next morning, she told her husband. He said, "Gracie, we can barely afford the cat." She said, "I know." He looked at her for a long time. Then he said, "Bring him home." The first night was hard. Soldier wouldn't come inside. He stood on the porch, staring through the screen door, like he didn't believe it was real. Grace put a blanket out there, a bowl of water. She sat on the other side of the screen and read her book, just like before. Around 2 in the morning, she heard the screen door creak. She opened her eyes. Soldier had nosed it open. He was standing in the hallway, looking at her. She didn't move. He walked past her, slowly, checked every room, the kitchen, the kids' rooms, the bathroom, like he was clearing the house, making sure it was safe. Then he came back to her and lay down, right at her feet. The first month was all baby steps. Soldier would eat, but only when no one was watching. He'd walk through the house, but freeze if someone moved too fast. He didn't bark, not once. The vet said his vocal cords showed signs of trauma. Maybe someone had punished him for it. Grace's daughter, Lily, was 7. She had this thing where she'd draw pictures of every animal she met. She drew Soldier on his first day home. Big ears, brown eyes, that scar on his ear. She taped it to his crate and said, "That's so you know what you look like when someone loves you." Soldier looked at the drawing, then at Lily. Then he did something no one expected. He sat. Not because anyone told him to, because he wanted to be closer to her. Over the weeks, Lily became his person. She'd read to him at night, chapter books, out loud. She didn't care that he couldn't understand the words.
She said, "Daddy, he listens better than anyone in my class." By month 3, Soldier started changing. He'd meet Grace at the door when she came home. He'd follow Marcus to the truck every morning and sit at the end of the driveway until he couldn't see the taillights anymore. He learned that the sound of the school bus meant Lily was coming, and every day at 3:15 he'd be at the window, ears up, tail going. But the real moment, the one that broke everyone, was a Thursday in November. Grace got a call from the school. Lily had fallen on the playground, hit her head. They were taking her to the hospital. Grace grabbed her keys and ran out. In her rush, she left the front door cracked. When Marcus got home an hour later, the house was empty. Soldier was gone. They searched for 2 hours. The neighbors helped. Marcus drove every street in a 5-mile radius. Nothing. Then, Grace got a text from her friend Beth, who worked at the hospital. "Is this your dog?" Soldier was sitting outside the emergency room entrance. He had walked 4 miles across town, through intersections, past a highway on-ramp, through neighborhoods he'd never been in, and he found her. He found Lily. No one could explain it. He'd never been to that hospital. He didn't know the route. But he knew his girl was hurt, and nothing was going to keep him from getting to her.
When Lily came out with a bandage on her forehead and her mom holding her hand, she saw Soldier and started crying. She dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around his neck. He pressed his head into her chest and closed his eyes. Marcus, who hadn't cried since his father's funeral, stood there in the parking lot and wept. That night, Soldier slept in Lily's bed. For the first time, he didn't check the rooms. He didn't stand guard. He just curled up beside her and let himself rest. The family started calling him something different after that. Not Soldier, not the ghost. They called him Shadow. Because wherever Lily went, he was right there. Her shadow. That was 2 years ago. Shadow is 6 now. Maybe 7. His muzzle is a little grayer. He's a little slower on the stairs. But every morning at 6 a.m., he's sitting by the door, watching, guarding, waiting for the people who showed him that a chain doesn't have to be the end of the story. Lily still reads to him every night. Last week she told Grace, "Mom, I think Shadow understands every word." Grace smiled and said, "I think he always did." Sometimes, the ones who've been through the most are the ones who love the hardest. They don't love because they forgot what pain feels like. They love because they finally found something worth staying for. If you know someone like that, tell them you see them. That's all they ever needed to hear.